Hello, everyone, and happy Travel Talk Tuesday. Hello, and happy holiday season, everyone. We will begin in a few minutes. We're just waiting for everyone to log on and let everyone get situated. In the meantime, please feel free to write in the chat box where you're joining us from. We would love to hear from you. Hello to everyone joining us on Facebook as well. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Please feel free to write in the comment section there where you're joining us from today. All right, we have Robin from Ohio. Hello, Robin. We have Marilyn from British Columbia, Canada. Welcome. Hi, Alexander. Nice to see you. Hi, Rebecca from Denver, Colorado. We have Mary from Southern California. Sure, it's much warmer there than it is here right now. We have Timothy from North Carolina. Hello and welcome. Hi, Sheila from Maine and Elaine from Nevada. Welcome so much. All right. Give it like one more minute. Welcome to everyone. Sue from Ohio. Holly from Michigan. Hi, Barb from Canada. Nice to see you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. My name is Daniela, and I oversee our community and engagement team here at EF Go Ahead Tours. I am so excited to be here with you today during this very festive holiday season. If this is your first time joining us for a travel talk, welcome. We're so happy to have you. And if you're a returning guest, thank you so much for joining us again today. Now, over the next 4 weeks, our travel talks are going to look a little bit different. When we create our travel talks, we always want to bring something new and fresh and timely, and we want to create something new for you. And since we are entering this magical and wonderful time right now, we thought it would be fun to count down to the holidays with you by bringing you these special travel talks. Now, over the next 4 weeks, we're going to have different holiday-themed travel talks, and today we're going to kick things off by talking about Germany, its Christmas traditions, and of course about the Christmas markets. Now, before we get started, I do want to set some expectations for this session though. First, this is a webinar, which means you will only be able to see me and our special host today. Your cameras and microphone will be turned off, so we won't be able to see or hear you, but of course, we do want to hear from you. So if you have any questions or comments throughout the session, please just submit those via the Q&A box here in Zoom, or if you're joining us on Facebook today, use the chat function there to ask your questions, and we will try to answer those either throughout the session today, or we have that dedicated Q&A section section at the end of the presentation. Now, I just mentioned that I'm joining you from the Boston office today, but I actually grew up in Germany. And growing up in Germany, the Advent season was my favorite time of the year. The Advent season starts on the 4th Sunday before Christmas and leads up to Christmas Day. During that time, German families and friends gather and come together, and they share so many traditions. And while most of those traditions are shared in people's home, there is one tradition that will get everyone out of their house, even on the coldest of days, which is, you guessed it, yes, visiting the famous German Christmas markets. Now, experiencing a Christmas market is really one of the highlights of the holiday season, but not just in Germany, but also in Austria, in Switzerland, and many other European countries. Most Christmas markets open in mid-November, so in a normal year, many people would be flocking to those Christmas markets daily right now. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the Christmas markets had to be canceled again this year in most of Germany and most of other European cities. So while we can't be there in person this year, we hope that the next hour will bring you a little bit of that holiday spirit to your homes, and maybe it will even inspire you to go visit one of the beautiful Christmas markets in person in the future. Now, we have a lot of exciting things to discuss today. We're going to start by sharing some famous German Christmas traditions. After that, we're going to share a brief history of the Christmas markets and how they evolved over time. We will be sharing tips and tricks on what to eat and drink and what to buy. And of course, we'll end with our itineraries and experiences that we offer here at Go Ahead, so you can experience maybe the Christmas markets on your own in person in the future. So, and as always, we will conclude our presentation with a live Q&A session with our very experienced and wonderful Tour Director Atto, who I would like to introduce to all of you right now. Atto, thank you so much for being here today for this very special edition of our Travel Talk series. Atto, if you could please introduce yourself to our audience and let everybody know how long you've been working with EF Go Ahead Tours and what sort of tours you lead for us.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Atto. I'm from Germany. I'm living in Berlin, and I work for Go Ahead and EF Tours since 2006. So the last 15 years are very exciting for me. I lead a lot of German-speaking tours, but all the surrounding too, just like Eastern European, Scandinavian, Benelux. I do it in the summertime, but my favorite time of the year also in wintertime. So yeah, I used to grow up on a farm, and I was not able to travel because we didn't have the time nor the money, and I made it my profession. I'm so happy to show it to all of you. Those are my favorite countries. Yeah, come over.
Thank you so much, Atto, again for being here with us today. All right, let's dive into our program. But before we talk about the actual Christmas markets, let's talk a little bit about Germany's Christmas traditions first. Now, while Christmas did not originate in Germany, many of the holiday traditions that all of us know today did originate in Germany. So we actually have a lot of different traditions in Germany, and many of them actually vary from region to region. So Atto, why don't you share some of your favorite traditions with our audience today?
Well, the first one is the Advent calendar. So you have a wonderful picture there. Originates from the 19th century, and it's basically, and like Daniela said it before, it's just like to counting down to the holidays. And especially, as you can imagine, that's very hard for little kids, just like, oh, when's Christmas? And so they try to find something just like to slow them down, and that is the purpose of an Advent calendar. So you have one here, there is something in the socks, and you're only allowed to open it on the 1st, on the 2nd, and that goes up to the 24th. And I got one too, and I show it to you. I got this big bag, and there is my Christmas calendar in here. It's just like I have all these bags, and this is for the 23rd, and I'm not allowed to look in it. I can start tomorrow, so I'm very impatient too. Well, there's also industrial made ones which you can get, and all kinds of different things, just like different tea bags, chocolate. And I heard Daniela this year got a special one. She got 24 different cheeses in her Advent calendar.
Yes, I did. I typically get the traditional one where when you open each door, there's a little chocolate, a little treat, which I love. But this year, going to be 24 different cheeses. So excited about this one too. And I just saw Rihanna in the audience commented that she got a Harry Potter one. This is so exciting. I would love that too.
Yeah.
I really love that there's so many different ones out there right now. But let's move on and talk about another tradition that many of you are likely familiar with, which is the Advent wreath.
Yes, the Advent wreath is it's actually the same purpose as the Advent calendar, just like to count down to the holidays. And it was invented the first time in Hamburg by a man called Johann Hinrich Wiechern, and he was the owner, the leader of a boy orphanage. And he was thinking about how can I just like slow down my boys because they're asking me every day again. So he invented that. He put the wreath there, put 4 big candles for every Sunday, and even 20 small ones for the weekdays. And there was a positive side effect in those days that the boys learned how to count in that way. In the 1860s, they started to decorate it with fir green. And so there is more and more decoration. And of course, as you see in this picture, this is for the first Advent. And every Sunday you lit up another candle up to the 4th. And then, of course, it's very close to Christmas Eve. Then you all lit up all of them. Yeah, so, and it was the first time for Northern German, as Hamburg is located in, and then it became a tradition in all the German-speaking areas. And now every family has an Advent calendar actually at home.
Great, let's talk about this next tradition,
Yes.
St. Nicholas.
And we have St. Nicholas, and he's always accompanied by this dark man over there. But first, talk about St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas is actually an historic figure. He lived in nowadays Turkey in a town called Myra, and he was Nicholas of Myra. And the story behind it, legend said that there was a very poor man, and he had three daughters, and he couldn't afford to marry them because he was lacking the dowry for them. So the Nicholas heard about it, and he came at night and put some pieces of gold into the window where the daughters were sleeping. And the happy man then was able to marry his daughters to decent husbands. So that is the story with the legend behind it. And that's the reason why it became a tradition that St. Nicholas is coming on the 6th of December, and you can find goodies in your shoes or your boots. But they have to be cleaned before, yeah, so that's important. So that's a tradition to St. Nicholas. So the presents in the very old days were presented on St. Nicholas Day, and later on were shifted to Christmas Eve, but we talk about that later. But who is the guy on the right side, this scary figure? So it's in northern Germany, it's called Knecht Ruprecht, but in the Alpine region, it's called Krampus. Krampus means withered or dead or dry person or something like that. And he is always accompanying Nicholas. So he is a good guy, bad guy story, more or less. And I remember when I was a kid, 5 years old, Knecht Ruprecht was there. He had a rucksack on his back, and they were sticking 2 legs of a little boy out there, and he said, if you're not well behaving, I'm gonna get you. And I was, oh my goodness, I was lucky because he left the house, and Nicholas left something for me. So I was well behaved, I think. Yeah, but well, for little boys, that was scary. And scary nowadays, when you go to Salzburg, for example, they have a Krampus run. So on the 5th of December, the night before, they run through the city and scare the tourists, not only the tourists, but the tourists especially. And I turned around and I saw that person and was just like, whoa, what is that? Yeah, so, and now it's a touristical magnet. So Krampus, just like, don't miss that when you come.
All right, well, let's talk about a less scary tradition next, and one that I'm pretty sure all of you here know and probably have in your homes too, which is a Christmas tree.
Oh yes, the Christmas tree. You shouldn't miss the Christmas tree. Yes, there's this wonderful song, O Tannenbaum, and then the Christmas tree Yeah, has a long tradition. Basically, there are two legends. First one is the religious thing behind it, because it's the paradise tree. It's Adam and Eve in paradise garden, and there is an apple, the fruit of seduction, and we all know the story, of course. And then later on, the Christmas trees was decorated with apples in the very old days. So that is one thing. But even in pre-Christian times, the people put evergreen branches into their homes, because that was a symbol for eternal life, and also scaring the bad ghosts out of your home. So those two stories just like combined, getting into the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree in northern Germany first, and then um, taken over by Queen Victoria. She married a German husband, and they took the tradition to England. And even in 2 years later, half of England wanted to have a Christmas tree. Same time, now we're talking about the 1830s and 40s. German immigrants brought that tradition also to North America, to the US. That's what we heard of. And yes, and nowadays we have 25 million Christmas trees every year in Germany. Uh, and what happens if we don't sell them? We feed them to the elephants in the zoological gardens. So we have a use for everything.
Thank you, Atto. Wow, I had no idea that we feed them to the elephants, but we always learn something new. Now, before we talk about our last Christmas tradition, I do want to ask you a question that was pre-submitted by Carol, and she's asking, what are some special religious customs at Christmas time in, I assume, Germany?
Yeah. Like I explained, for some of the or most of the traditions we have nowadays have a religious background, and maybe it's forgotten among a lot of people, because originally there were 40 days of Lent before Christmas, like you have before Easter. So there was a time where the people who did not eat meat and not sweets, and it's different than we do nowadays. But if you're really Orthodox Christian, then you still do that. And I remember I grew up Catholic, that on Christmas Eve, we had only potato salad and a sausage, and not something too rich, but then the big meal came on Christmas Day. So yeah, most of the traditions we have a religious background still. Yeah.
And there's so many, Carol. We couldn't talk about all of them today, but for example, the nativity scenes, they have that religious background as well. And we actually have a special webinar on that coming up soon as well. But next, we will spend the rest of our time today talking about this last Christmas or holiday tradition, which is the Christmas markets. Now, before we dive into what you can actually expect at a market today, let's quickly talk about the history of the Christmas markets. Atto, can you please tell our audience how these markets started, how long have they been around, and how have they evolved over time?
Well, the oldest ones are up to 600-700 years old. There is the one in Dresden, Striezel market from the 15th century, and even older in Bautzen, 14th century. So a very long time. And in the beginning, it was a winter market, just like to supply the people with the food they needed for the holidays. So to get fresh meat for the holidays. And with time, and in first, nowadays, it's about 4 weeks in a row. It was maybe 1 day or 2 days, maybe one whole weekend. But it became in the 18th, 19th century, it became more and more popular to have public gatherings there. So you eat and drink. The vendors were selling more toys, more different food, more sweets, more drinks. And so that's how the whole thing evolved over years. And this is the picture where you see the Dresden Striezel market, one of the oldest ones in the old days, and how it is looking nowadays. Very nice. So you have the Christmas pyramid here, also, and also what they put on religious traditions. In the middle, there is standing a nativity scene. So you have Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus and the ox and the donkey and all of that. That is also, and it's also just told to the kids while on Christmas Eve. A lot of families just like read the Christmas story to their kids. Yes, and there we have the Christkind, literally translated means Christ child. Christ child is opening the Nuremberg Christmas market. It originates after the Reformation, so 1500s. Martin Luther said just like there is Santa Claus, but we are not into patron saints so much anymore, so we need another figure. So he invented more or less the Christ child. And in Nuremberg, Protestant area in Bavaria, the Christ child is opening the Christmas market. And the girl needs to be from Nuremberg. She does the job for 2 years, and she needs to be between 16 and 19 years old. And she needs to know the lines she has to say by heart. And then they vote for her for those 2-year job. And we always know when she's in television, then we know the Christmas market is open. And she has a very hard job. She has 160 dates in those Advent period, just like from opening other Christmas markets. By the way, the one in Chicago she opens because that's the sister city of Nuremberg. And yeah, charity events. So busy girl in those days.
Thank you, Atto. Now, let's talk about my favorite section of this presentation, which is about food and drinks. I'm a big foodie, so as you all just saw, the German Christmas markets have really evolved over time, and they're becoming bigger and bigger. And when you actually walk through the Christmas markets, you can really see rows and rows of different stalls. And as you pass by them, there's this beautiful aroma in the air. Trust me, it just smells so good and everything looks so delicious. Atto, how does one decide what to get when there is so much choice at these Christmas markets today? And what are some of your must-try foods and drink at the Christmas markets?
Yeah, first of all, you have to start at one end and then you can't stop until you have tasted everything on the other end. That's the most important thing. So what you see here is a Lebkuchen, and Lebkuchen, just like we still are in Nuremberg, the very famous one. Nuremberg had the advantage in the old days. It was located at two trading routes, just like crossing at Nuremberg. So one from Scandinavia to Italy and the other one from Prague to Paris. So they never had the lack of supplies of foreign herbs, which you need for Lebkuchen. So it's cardamom, cinnamon, anise. You have cloves sometimes and stuff like that. To sweeten it, they used the local honey, and it became a very big tradition in Nuremberg. They decorated with almonds. You have them right here with a chocolate layer on top. And yeah, or you have it like there, you have those hearts, those gingerbread hearts. Yeah, you call it gingerbread, we call it Lebkuchen. And I have one here too. So you have these little ones, and you can just, if you want to say something to your loved ones, you can say, this is only Danke, but you can say just like sweet princess or for the best mother of the planet or whatever you like. So there's a variety of what you can buy and just like make a statement to your loved ones immediately.
Yeah.
So.
I actually have a few gingerbread or Lebkuchen here as well. I love them. They're honestly my favorite treat. So I have a little pretzel shaped one, or a little heart shaped one, or even a little star shaped one. And they're different than American gingerbread. They're a lot softer. So super easy to bite into. And as Atto just mentioned, they have these wonderful, wonderful spice mixture, something that I don't think you can get here in the US, but these are just so delicious. So when you're there, I definitely recommend trying some Lebkuchen for sure. Now, there is something else that we can see here on this picture on the bottom, which are the roasted nuts. And trust me again, when I say, when you walk by one of these stands, you can smell the roasted nuts, and it smells so good and they taste so good. Atto, tell us a little bit more about those.
Well, that's like Daniela said. So first of all, if you see the stall, the lady knows exactly what to do. She lets you taste one of the nuts, and then you can't resist, and you have to buy it. So it's almond, roasted almond, other nuts, and just like fried in different flavors. So you can just like, you smell it and you eat it, and you just can't resist. It's wonderful, fantastic. Or if you're not into nuts and gingerbread, there is sweet stuff. Candied apples, you have some bananas in chocolate, and there's lots of different things. It's just like, yeah, definitely there is no lack. Just like to, mm, wow.
You're getting hungry, I can tell, right?
Yes, I'm losing my speech because I look at those things.
Well, what if you're not into sweet things? What can one get at a Christmas market then?
Well, if you're not into sweets and you're looking for something very different, then sausages. Of course, you're in Germany. Sausages in Germany, that's one thing. And the ones you see here is the Nuremberg. Still, we are in Nuremberg, the Nuremberg sausage, and there is a wonderful legend to it, which I like to share. You see, they're not very big, so they're only the size of a finger. And the story is there was a curfew in the old days in Nuremberg, and they were not allowed to sell any food after a certain time or of the evening. So, and then there was this restaurant owner, and he said, "Oh my goodness, I can just like pass by this law because I have this door and there is the keyhole. The keyhole is bigger than nowadays, and there is just a sausage pushing. I can put it in there and I can sell it like this. So they can't do me any harm if I do that." And that became a tradition. And since then, the Nuremberg sausage is small, but you get as a food to go, you get it in a bun, 3 in a bun, and that's the traditional thing. Or if you sit down in a restaurant, you get it with sauerkraut and fried potatoes, and you can eat 3, 6, 9, 12. It's a matter how hungry you are. They're really fantastic. Yes. And this, what you see now, it makes my northern German heart pounding. The people in Bavaria and in the Alpine regions, they don't know this. Maybe you know what it is already. It's kale. And kale, we call it Grünkohl. Grünkohl in northern Germany is a thing we all talk about and we're all happy to eat. So kale in New York City, it's superfood. It's a superfood. It's very healthy. They serve it different than we have it do it here. We do it in beef broth and then with onions, and then you have it for 2 days, and then it really tastes good. So northern Germany and Grünkohl is one thing you have to taste. Daniela, you have to taste it.
I do. I was actually telling Atto before we started this presentation that I've never had this since I didn't grow up in northern Germany, but it looks delicious and it sounds healthy, right?
It's a standard, yes.
Now, I do want to ask you another question that we got from Kelsey, and she's wondering, are there any foods that I can try if I'm gluten intolerant? Are there any gluten-free foods?
Well, yes, actually you can. I mean, just like I said, you can eat sauerkraut is a traditional food for Germany, and that is gluten-free. Also potatoes, sausages, and also, well, the bun maybe is not, but the people over here get more and more the concept of people having problems with gluten. So if you ask, they're sometimes prepared. I don't want to say that every sausage vendor has that, but there is more and more the people are aware of gluten-free, and just think you have to ask. But there's still some food around, yes.
Okay, perfect, great. All right, we talked a lot about food. Let's talk about some drinks. And as we mentioned at the beginning, typically it's pretty cold here in Germany in December, but that doesn't stop people from going out because you warm yourself up with a warm drink. So what are some of these drinks one must try at a Christmas market?
Yes, Yes, the most famous, and you see it here in the middle, it's called Glühwein. Glühen, the verb is it's glowing, and that's what happens if you drink it. So you drink it and you start, your head starts to glow, and wine means wine, so it's glowing wine if you want to translate it literally, but you call it mulled wine. And that's basically, it's a red wine with some herbs, with anise, with some other stuff, sugar, of course, cloves, and you put it in. Then you heat it up, but you don't boil it. You simmer it for a while, and then you can wonderful drink it. It's really, really fantastic. Glühwein, it's called. Then you have another variety that's grog. It's basically a heated rum with some ingredients in there. And then the special one is what you see here in the front is Feuerzangenbowle. Feuerzangen translation to fire tongue. So that means you have a piece of sugar, you drip rum onto the sugar, and then you put fire underneath so that that it's dripping into the Glühwein actually, and that gives a special taste. It's very famous because there was a famous movie in the 40s about it, and since then you get Feuerzangenbowle everywhere. Yes, and that's how you drink it. You drink it in mugs, and you get the mug when you order your Glühwein, and you have to pay a deposit. And that makes it actually a perfect souvenir because when you emptied it, so you can take the mug because you already paid for it, or you give it back and you get your deposit back. But believe me, I had some travelers, they bought an extra suitcase because they collected a mug from every single Christmas market we have been to. So there were a lot of Christmas markets, and it was clicking on the way to the airport. Very funny. So that is special Glühwein. It always mostly says which city you're on and stuff like that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I have to agree with Atto. These mugs are a wonderful souvenir to bring back either for yourself to remember which Christmas market you were at, or even to bring to a loved one at home. Now, and if you also fell in love with the taste of Glühwein and you want to make it at home and maybe pour it in that mug that you brought yourself, you can actually buy Glühwein in a bottle as well. So you can either buy it in Germany and bring it back. You're allowed 2 bottles. Or actually, I went to a local liquor store this weekend and I found a bottle of Glühwein right here as well. So you can find it in the US. It's the same one.
Yes, yeah. The recipe for Glühwein comes out of the middle 1845. That was the first time mentioned, and these in bottles since 1950s. They produce it in bottles, so you can take it
Yeah.
as a present.
Great. And I'm just seeing a couple questions here from the audience. Rhiannon, great questions. Where can I find a good recipe? What I'm going to do after this webinar, I'll send out a recipe of a good mulled wine that you can make. Like I said, you can either buy the bottle or their mulled wine spices, or we can just send you the ingredients. But there's many different recipes out there. Everybody does it a little bit different. But I can send you one of my favorites. I'll send it to everyone with the recording. And then I saw another question here we got from Dave. He said in Nuremberg, you traditionally buy gold foil angels and Brune figures. Are there any other Christmas markets must-buys? And which is a wonderful segue into our next section of the presentation. We're actually going to talk about what to buy at a Christmas market. So Atto, while we talk through this section, if you can also point out like some of the markets where you can buy these things, but I think everything we're going to talk about next you can find at least the German Christmas markets. Let's start with the Nutcracker, right?
Yes, the winter time is the time for nuts, and somehow, if you don't want to use your own teeth, you have to find something to get to the wonderful nut, and this is the device for it. This is the nutcracker, or we say Nussknacker. And so you put the nut into the mouth of the man, and on the back you have a lever, and then you crack it, and then you can eat it. Nussknacker. So they come first time mentioned in Bavaria in the 17th century. But nowadays they are produced in East Germany in a town called Seifen. They have more than only the nutcrackers, and they were symbolizing official authority. So they have sometimes a little grim look. So they should look like a policeman or like a soldier or the king or the prince. Yeah, so that's the nutcrackers. You can find them everywhere. But there is more. There's Christmas ornaments. Of course, the ornaments, just like they break easily, so you have to be careful, but they will send them also if you like to have that. The story behind the ornaments is that in the very old days, like I said, there were apples and nuts and sweet stuff hanging at the Christmas tree. But then there was a poor man, he was a glass blower in a town called Lauscha in East Germany. And he said, okay, I can't afford apples, but I can do glass blow. And so he started doing that. And out of that, it became very famous, these Christmas ornaments. So still nowadays, they produce a lot of them in that small town. But of course, he can't only supply the whole world with ornaments because there's so many. Red is the traditional color. But you also see some blue ones. There you see there is a Volkswagen Beetle in there. So there is no, yeah, like I said, you can put everything into your Christmas tree. And there is one interesting story which came to my mind because there were just North American tourists coming to me and saying, Atto, do you know the story about the Christmas pickle? It's like, Christmas pickle? What is that? Yeah, it's a German tradition. I said, oh, really? And I had no idea. So I was asking Mr. and Mrs. Google, just like, and I found that it's said that in North America, they say this is a German tradition that the one who finds the Christmas pickle in the green Christmas tree first is getting a special present or is able to at least start as the first one to open the presents. And I was just, that's interesting. And 90% of all Germans don't know that. But nowadays it's getting more and more. And I think it's a very nice tradition. I stick to it. Daniela had no clue about it too. So
nope,
yeah.
Never heard about it, but I'm definitely going to buy a Christmas pickle.
Let's make it a North American German tradition.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about some other gifts one can buy at a Christmas market. What are these?
And this is the perfect present to take, even if your suitcase is completely full. You can put it and you fold it and you put it in your suitcase, and that's wonderful. The ones you see here are called Herrnhuter stars. Yeah, so Herrnhut is the town where they produced them first. And talking about religious traditions, the one on the left side, the white and red one, is the traditional one. Red symbolizing the blood of Jesus, and white color stands for purity. So these are beautiful ones. You can have other ones too, but I would go for these ones. But once you're up there, it's beautiful. Christmas is alive when you have them. Yes, and there is just a few more things you can buy. These are produced in a town called Seifen in the Ore Mountains. And that's what they have, the incense smoker. So you have a little piece of incense, you lit it up a little bit, it starts to smoke, put it into the figurine, and then he starts to smoke and you get this wonderful incense smell, which you maybe know from Catholic churches. It's a wonderful smell to have in your house. And the Christmas pyramid underneath, they have it sometimes even on Christmas market in huge. We saw that earlier. So there are the candles, you light the candles, and with the heat going up, the windmill starts to turn. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful atmosphere with the nutcrackers. It is all what you can buy on Christmas markets. Yes.
Yes, and there's so much more that you can buy. And if you don't necessarily want to buy, these toys or anything like that, and just want to bring back a treat, there's a few more food items that we didn't talk about earlier, and we saved for this section because these are actually perfect to bring back because they often come in really nice containers. So there's a few more items that I want you to share with our audience here. So let's start with the Christmas Stollen.
Yeah. the Christmas Stollen or Striezel, which you see now, it's coming from Dresden, and it gave the market, the Christmas market in Dresden, the name Striezelmarkt. But Christmas Stollen and Striezel is the same thing, and this is also very old and very religious and traditional food, because in the old days it was done by monks, and the monks, they had to fast before Christmas, and they were only supposed to use flour, water, and yeast, and nothing more. And of course, it was a little dry very fast. And then there is an official letter from the medieval days from Pope Innocent. He gave permission in that letter that they could put some more ingredients in there. So they were then allowed to use raisins and butter, and later on even powdered sugar. I doubt they had powdered sugar in the medieval days, but so then it became more and more fashion. It's very durable, so well preserved. You can take it in nice decorated boxes with you home, and even weeks later, it tastes fantastic. So I can only recommend that. That is good. And there's some other sweets. It's Dominostein, and that's actually my favorite. Dominostein. There is some gingerbread in there, some marzipan and chocolate around. Or you have marzipan on the right side coming from Lübeck, very famous for marzipan, and Spekulatius. This is a very traditional cookie you eat just before Christmas. You see this anise thing in the back and cinnamon. That's all in there, very special taste. And mostly you have figurines printed on it. So a windmill, a lamb, Santa Claus. It's wonderful. And you can all find these either on the Christmas market or even in supermarkets. So they're all around. Sometimes already in September, which is a little too early. Yes. Yeah, talking about if you come in July and you want to have the Christmas feeling, there's a chance for you. And that is the Käthe Wohlfahrt store in Rothenburg. Rothenburg town, a very quaint, nice medieval town in Bavaria. And they have the flagship store of Käthe Wohlfahrt. And even if it's 90 degrees outside, you walk in there and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is greeting you, and you have nutcrackers, Christmas trees, Christmas ornaments, everything about Christmas, and you're in Christmas wonderland. Yeah, immediately. And if you're too embarrassed to take it home in summertime, so they can ship it to you. So there is a chance to have the Christmas feeling even in summertime, and of course in wintertime too. They have more than one shop, and they even sometimes have outside of Germany, they have shops too. So Winter Wonderland, Käthe Wohlfahrt.
Wonderful. Thank you, Atto. So for those of you who can't make it during the holiday season to Germany or some of these other European cities, this is your place to go if you want to shop for some Christmas presents early. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some must-see Christmas markets. Now we talked a lot about Germany and its traditions today, but I mentioned at the beginning that Christmas markets are now found all throughout Europe. I just saw in the comment section somebody went to the Chicago Christmas market yesterday, which is really fantastic. So Atto, let's talk about your favorite Christmas markets in Europe. Let's start with this one. We already talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's talk about the Striezel market.
Yes, the Striezel market is we have seen that picture before. This is the oldest one in Germany, or one of the oldest ones. And sadly enough, this year is not running, but it will come back. So it's a 700-year tradition, and it will last. I can assure you that. The next one here is Munich. You see the iconic Church of Our Lady and the new town hall. And just in front of it, you see all those stalls from the Christmas market in Munich. Munich also has a medieval Christmas market. So there's a variety of Christmas market, one also in the residence, very nice Munich at Christmas time. But it's not only in Germany. This is the one in Strasbourg. Strasbourg, yeah, well, maybe you know a little bit about geography. Strasbourg used to shift between Germany and France all the time. But the people living there, they spoke a German dialect. So the cultural heritage is more German in the old days than French. even it's nowadays French, they stick to the tradition and they have the Christmas market still. And their advertising is capital of Christmas in France, and all of France is really crazy about going to Strasbourg. I've been there in Advent time. It's absolutely wonderful. I can just recommend that. Yes, and here we have Salzburg. Salzburg is very, very nice and quaint. The city itself is not as big, but there is another thing which is closely related to Salzburg, and therefore I will just give you a chance to listen to the song for a moment.
All is bright round yon virgin, mother and child. Holy infant.
So, do you know the song? So the song is, of course, Silent Night, Holy Night, and it was sung by Bing Crosby in the 1930s. So, but maybe a lot of Americans think it is an American Christmas song. No, it is not. And there was even a lady in the 1943, she wrote a book about it to just like to tell the story where the song is actually born. And that is Salzburg. In 1816, there was Franz Mohr. He wrote the lines, the lyrics, and he was asking his friend Franz Xaver to compose a song to it. And it was first time performed in a small town on Christmas Eve, 1818. And 15 years later, the song came with a singing group from Tyrol to Germany, and they were touring through the US even in the 19th century. So it's kind of an early von Trapp family, maybe. And they made it famous also in North America. And then Bing Crosby sang it in the 30s, and it was the third most sold single ever. So I think that's really remarkable. But it is a Salzburg Christmas song which conquered the world. And I really love it. So, and then we have some more, not far from Salzburg, by the way. This is the Christmas market in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Prague used to be part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and until the Second World War, there was a very big German community living in nowadays Czech Republic. And so they have the tradition of the Christmas market too. So that's a very nice one too. But even more, there are Christmas markets in the Scandinavian countries, in the Baltics, in the Benelux countries. And there's also one in Poland. When you see the next picture, this is Warsaw. There's an ice skating ring in the middle, and those ones in Poland were re-established after the fall of the Iron Curtain. So in communist times, there were no Christmas markets, but later on, they were in Krakow, in Warsaw, in Gdansk. They have Christmas markets nowadays. It's very nice.
Thank you, Atto, so much for walking us through these different Christmas markets throughout Europe. Now, before we talk about the itineraries that we offer here at Go Ahead Tours that bring you to the Christmas market, I do want to ask you one more question that we received from Susan, and she wants to know, how much time do we actually get at the markets when on tour, and can we go back to the markets in our free time?
Yes, absolutely. So most of the time we have a city tour in the morning, and the Christmas markets open between 10, 11, and they close at 8 or 9, or sometimes even 10 o'clock at night. So there is a lot of time. So after our city tours, you can just have a lunch break there, but you can also come back. We go to the hotel, and in the evening you have time So there is enough time, and we do the best to just match your expectations. So if you want to spend more time, there's always the opportunity for you to go there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Atto, for answering that. So now that you know what Christmas markets to see, what to eat and drink there, and what to buy, let's talk about some of the tours that will take you to the European Christmas markets. Now, let's start with this itinerary first, which is our historic Germany tour that we offer during the Christmas season. Atto, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so you fly into Berlin, that's where you start. And Berlin is a very big city, so you have more than one Christmas market. There is one right next to my place here, it's a Scandinavian Christmas market. So they sometimes also have different themes, just like medieval, Scandinavian. There's even in Hamburg, there's an erotic Christmas market. I have never been there, but stuff like that happen. You see Dresden, and then further down you go Bamberg, and then Rothenburg, and that is the other picture you see. That is the main square in Rothenburg, which has the lovely Christmas market in the wintertime. Munich, and then the extension Vienna. In Vienna, is a big city, so you have at least 5, 6 different Christmas markets. One in front of Castle Schönbrunn, the other one in front of the town hall, which is the biggest one. So there is lots to see and lots of different things to buy. So they have different themes, and so sometimes different goods to buy too. And of course, you have this itinerary throughout the year too. So you see all that too. And on top, you get the Christmas market feeling.
Right, best of both worlds then. Okay, so if you don't want to just stay in Germany, but want to check off a few other countries off your bucket list, we do have a few combination tours where you can see other European Christmas markets as well. So the next one we're going to talk about is our Christmas markets tour of Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Atto, tell us a little bit more about this tour.
Yes, you fly into Frankfurt, and then the first city you see is Heidelberg, and very nice and quaint town too. You proceed then, and then it's wintertime. You see the Alps in the snow, and you have really the alpine feeling. You go to Lucerne, Liechtenstein, and Innsbruck, and those all places inside the mountains, and you have the chance to go up. So what you see in the summertime, you see in the wintertime too, like I said, and the Christmas market. Innsbruck is beautiful in Christmas. Also Salzburg, I just talked about Salzburg. That's wonderful. And then you end up in Vienna or Budapest, and even Budapest has a Christmas market.
Speaking of Budapest, we also have this tour of the Eastern European Christmas markets. What can one expect to see on this tour?
Yes, you start in Budapest. Like I said, the summer tour is just like it's the Christmas feeling added to it. And then from Budapest, you go to Vienna. On the right side, you see Charles Church in Vienna with also a different Christmas market in front of it. And then you take Prague, we have seen a picture of that, Krakow and Warsaw, and then don't miss out the extension. It's beautiful. It's my hometown. You have to come. And then you see beautiful Christmas markets here too.
Wonderful.
So,
And then the last itinerary that we offer takes you to Amsterdam, Luxembourg, and Brussels.
yes, and Amsterdam is not only about tulips in the springtime, you can have Christmas feeling in Amsterdam too. And then in the quaint town, there's Maastricht, Luxembourg, Brussels, and Bruges. Bruges is so beautiful in the summertime already. It's beautiful in wintertime. So, I mean, if you're looking for Christmas market, you can really choose all those tours and you don't miss out anything.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Atto, for talking us through all of these beautiful itineraries. So I do want to move on to our Q&A session now, so that we have time to answer as many questions as possible. But before we take your live questions, we do have a few more pre-submitted questions that we got prior to the webinar. So let's dive into those. The first question is from Linda, and she wants to know, how crowded do the markets get?
Well, it depends. So if they start, like I said, they start early in the morning, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, sometimes only in the afternoon, the smaller ones. But during the daytime, it's mostly not that crowded. It gets more crowded after the work is done. So when they have the German word Feierabend, just like when they get off their work, then they go and have a Glühwein or some food. It's of course in the weekend, it's more crowded, but it's depending on really the day. So if you don't like big crowds, there is a chance to go at another time. It's not always crowded all the time. So then you have a chance to have that.
Great. Next question that we have is from Carla, and she wants to know, how do I best prepare for the Christmas markets tour? What should I pack? I assume she is referencing the cold. So tell us, what should we pack?
Well, Germany and the middle of Europe in this part of the year, you can actually have, I mean, it's cold, period, but it can be little cold or really cold. Sometimes it's Novemberish and drizzling rain, but sometimes it's also like now today in the south, they got a lot of snow, which is not lasting for long. But right here in Berlin, I saw one snowflake this morning, but not more. So be prepared, but you need boots, you need a winter jacket. But if you miss out something, there's always a chance to buy it on the Christmas market. So if you don't bring gloves, take it as a souvenir with you. So you can buy everything.
I love that. That's what I do. I purposely forget things at home so I can buy something new. Now, okay, let's answer some of your questions here that we got. The first one that we got is from Mary, and she said, "My family always had oyster stew on Christmas Eve. Is there a connection to my German heritage?" Oyster stew.
I
No.
of Germany and oysters, no.
Okay, sorry, Mary.
Not that I know of, no.
All right. And then, so a few more questions from Rihanna, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but the first one is, for those who cannot visit in the winter, are there markets to visit in off season? What kind of markets do we have throughout the year in Germany?
Well, there are markets. For example, there's an in Munich. They have in the wintertime an alternative Christmas market where you can buy completely different stuff. It's called Tollwood, and Tollwood is in the wintertime, but it's a big market in the summertime for about 4 weeks. Sometimes they have fairs in different cities, and of course, well, Oktoberfest, don't miss out Oktoberfest. That's also connected with markets and stuff like that. So Christmas, spring markets they have sometimes. So it's depending, and big tradition in the summertime is that every city has a city party, a Stadtfest, and if you come at that time of the day of the year, it's nice too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Another question, do we need to have a German for Travelers book, or can we get around only knowing English? So in other words, do Germans understand English and can help you?
Yeah, the Germans, and most of the Germans understand English, and they're also helpful. Don't be afraid. We're not the biggest small talk nation, but just if you go towards the Germans, mostly will help. And if you smile, I mean, if you have a good smile, then what can you do? You just help.
All right. So this next question is from John. He wants to know, are there any items in the Christmas market that should not be purchased because they might not get through customs?
Oh, well, I mean, just in general, I would say just like, well, what the travelers normally buy is also the Swiss Army knives, so something like a knife, or just like a a lighter for cigarettes or for the incense thing, if there is gas in there, they don't go through customs. You shouldn't take them at all. A knife you can put in your checked bag. That's no problem. Yeah, but otherwise, well, if food is open, you can take it. So
That's right. So make sure you buy the sealed items. Like when we talked about the Christmas Stollen earlier, they typically come sealed in a box, and then it's okay to bring, but you can't bring it open. Same with, like, you can't just bring the sausage fresh from the butcher or so. But most places will have the sealed versions. Great.
Yeah.
And then one last question here from Alice. How much should I budget per day for a Christmas market tour?
Oh, it depends of how many gloves and nutcrackers you want to buy. So it's hard to say. So it's really, it's a matter of your budget. You can spend lots. You can just stand the temptation and say, oh, I don't need it. No.
Yeah, Alice, I would say in general, Germany is pretty affordable. So like even a Glühwein costs what, like €2 or so. So if you want to drink a few of those and then buy a few little treats, like you can easily go to the Christmas market and just eat and drink for €10. That's fine. But if you want to spend more, you can as well, right?
Yeah. Well, the Glühwein is a little more expensive. It's inflation.
It is. I guess I haven't been to a German Christmas market in a while. It used to be that. How much is it about now?
350, 350, 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, still, it's pretty affordable. All right. I think this is all the time we have for questions today. So with this, I'm going to bring up the presentation again. And well, I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation today. So if you want to continue counting down to the holidays with us, we have a few more special travel talks for you in store over the next few weeks. So next week, we're celebrating Hanukkah, Israel, Hanukkah traditions in Israel. Then after that, we're going to discover nativity scenes from Spain. And the last week on December 21st, we're going to Hungary and are hearing about Hungarian traditions there. And we're going to make some very special Hungarian Christmas treats. They're delicious. I'm telling you, you should come. So if you want to register for any of those upcoming webinars, go to our website at goaheadtours.com/webinars. And as always, we are adding more and more of these webinars every month. We have some fun ones planned for January as well. So keep checking back there as well. Now, I just want to say a very big thank you again to Atto for being here today and for sharing your insights and stories of the German Christmas traditions and the markets. And to all of you at home, thank you so much for taking the time today to tune in, to join us for this special edition. We really hope you enjoyed yourself. Atto, any parting words for our audience?
Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you on one of those tours. Yeah, you have to come. Say yes.
Yes, I will come for sure. Yes, thank you everyone again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day and a wonderful holiday season.
Okay.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.